It's time for my favorite build of the year, the one where you guys get to choose what parts you want to see me put together and test through a series of votes on Twitter. This is the Viewer's Choice PC 2018. Ready to dive into custom water cooling but unclear about what parts you might need? Check out Thermaltake's new M360 Plus RGB kit. Featuring a D5 pump res combo, 16mm hard tube, Pacific Sea Pro fittings, and the best RGB implementation on the market, the M360 Plus fits all mainstream Intel and AMD sockets and is fully expandable as your system evolves. Check out the link in the video description to learn more. I started off the questions at the broad end of the funnel and slowly brought the entire build into focus by narrowing down the parts choices and eventually making specific selections. All in all, it took 16 rounds of polling before we had our PC spec'd out. And I must say that you guys did a great job, even if some of the choices surprised me a bit. To kick things off, I asked you guys to let me know if you wanted an Intel or an AMD-based system. Unlike last year when you guys wanted Intel, this time around you chose AMD, and not by a small margin. It's no surprise given the enthusiasm they've generated with these second generation Ryzen parts performing much better in games, while also coming in significantly cheaper than Intel overall. Of course, just picking between Team Red and Team Blue doesn't tell us much. You had to pick a specific CPU. And in this vote, the Ryzen 7 2700X secured more than half the responses. I tried to give a wide range of options in both price and performance, but the lower end products didn't get much love, and I guess that means that you guys wanted to see 8 cores in action. We then zoomed back out to the macro level to figure out what kind of a case we'd be using. In a fairly tight overall race, standard ATX was the winner, although mini ITX was making a late push and almost caught up. I was actually rooting for micro ATX because I haven't done a build like that since I think February, but I won't go against the will of the people. Once we established the case overall size, I let you pick which specific chassis we would use. Twitter polls are limited, so even though 2 of the options here are Thermaltake, what I tried to do was vary the options as much as possible. The A500 is a professional looking aluminum and glass tower. The Define S2 is a jack of all trades workhorse. The P3 is basically an open air test bench on steroids, but the winner was the case of the moment, the Phanteks Evolve X. Next up, we shifted focus over to the graphics side of things, and I gave you a choice between the 2 most recent AMD and NVIDIA architectures. I wasn't sure exactly how this was going to go, but I figured Turing is new, so some people might want to see it, or maybe some people would like to have the RX 590 in our system instead. Or hell, maybe even a Vega 56 or something like that, since those cards are rarely used in these kinds of projects. But you guys went with Old Faithful NVIDIA Pascal. After that though, it was a massacre as the 1080 Ti still apparently is the people's champion, making it the second year in a row we'll be using the same GPU. In order to let all of our components speak to each other, it was time to pick a motherboard. I gave you guys a choice between 3 fairly high-end X470 boards, along with a little bit of a curveball in the BioStar choice, even though that's still a good product. And the Asus Strix X470F was what you guys wanted to see. For memory, you had a choice between 4 different RGB DIMMs. There were a couple of non-RGB options that I was considering including, but I think generally people prefer to have the choice of RGB even if they don't necessarily like the rainbow look. In an I should have seen it coming result, G-Skill's Trident ZRGB took the W. Although I'm going to skip out of order here, I also asked 2 more questions about memory at the end of polling. The first was about the number of memory modules, and the preference there was 4 over 2. I then asked if you'd prefer that I swap out the regular Trident Z for the Bling-tastic Royal version, and you guys confidently made that change, so there they are. We also need to think about cooling, and again here I think I was kind of hoping you guys would choose air for a change of pace. But the people shall not be denied, and liquid it is.
After that, you guys voted for the NZXT Kraken X72 over 2 other 360mm coolers and the brand new RGB-enabled Corsair H115i Platinum. Of course, we can't have a system without some airflow, so it was time to move on to the fans. Of course, the big question here was RGB or no RGB, and as I suspected, RGB won the day again. But then I gave you guys an interesting choice between 3 known RGB fan commodities and one setup that didn't even use RGB fans at all, instead getting its color from the Fantek's Halo fan frames. In the end, you preferred this setup with Be Quiet Silent Wings fans and the Halo frames. I had a couple last questions for you. The first was what resolution I should test at, and 1440p was the runaway winner. I think this is a good indication of where the gaming market is at, as gamers try to migrate up to the slightly higher yet still attainable resolution while keeping access to high refresh rate displays. The last question was, of course, what color we would make everything, and to the dismay of many, I'm sure, the winner was rainbow. I'm going to complement your part selections with a few of my own. We'll still need storage, power, and some accessories, so I grabbed an Antek high current gamer 750 watt power supply, a Samsung 960 EVO M.2 SSD, some awesome looking cables from Ensource Customs, and this new Spectrum backplate from V1 Tech. I've customized this one with the NVIDIA logo and the addressable RGB strip, so we'll see how it looks inside the finished build, but just in testing, it does look pretty cool. But in order to get there, we gotta do a build montage, so here it comes. So here it is, December 2018's Viewer's Choice PC, and I have to say, you guys did a damn good job of putting together one killer system. Not only does it look phenomenal, but it's also one of the best performing builds we've done in our monthly build series, as evidenced by our gaming benchmarks, which were all well above the 60 FPS sweet spot. I'm glad that you guys chose to go with 1440p testing on this one, because a system like this is definitely overkill for 1080p, but will likely give you buttery smooth performance in AAA titles for years to come at 1440. Not only that, but the performance comes paired with very little noise. The microphone I'm using is sitting just barely out of the frame right above my head. And I'm not quite sure, but I don't think it's even picking up any of the fan noise. This can likely be attributed to two things. One, the Kraken X72 is probably overkill for our Ryzen 7 2700X, and as such, not only did temps stay low, but the fans don't have to do all that much work. Two, the case fans in here are Be Quiet Silent Wings, which are of course known for being some of the best ones out there. Speaking of temps, I hit this PC with full system stress, including Firmark running at 4K and IDA64 Extreme. After about 15 minutes, the CPU stuck down in the low 60s, leveling off at about 62C, and the GPU only got up to about 73. Both of these temps leave plenty of room for overclocking if you wanted to explore that route and squeeze out some more performance. Building in the Fantex Evolve X was kind of a throwback for me, as I spent many hours with this case when I built Deep Red in the original Evolve. The new X version really does implement a lot of the changes requested by users, including myself, and now we have better airflow, more cable management options, a fan control hub, tempered glass, and of course, addressable RGB effects. This isn't a full case review, so we won't go too far into the weeds here, but the build experience was smooth and painless, and the end result, I think, speaks for itself. I did want to make note that while the B-roll did include all 4 memory DIMMs like I have installed right now, I was having issues getting the system to post with the memory running anything faster than 2400. For our game testing, because Ryzen is so dependent on memory speed for good performance, I removed 2 of the DIMMs and just used 16 gigabytes. I'm not sure if it's a motherboard issue, but I haven't updated the BIOS on it at all. So this could very well be an easy fix, as this is of course a newly released kit of memory and maybe the motherboard just doesn't really know what to do with it yet. So this video wraps up our monthly build series for 2018. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing your creation come to life, and I look forward to being able to do this again next year. I want to say thank you to everyone out there who watches, engages, and participates in these types of videos. We've come a long way this year on the channel, and I sense big things on the horizon in 2019. I hope you're around to take the journey with me. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.